Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the new moon in Virgo, decan 1, and it's going to be at 6 degrees of Virgo, exactly. So the new moon will be trine Uranus and also conjunct Mars as well. So this is the activation of that love triangle, really, that I was talking about in the main astral report that I just did, but we're going to go into it a lot more deeper with the new moon, because as you can see from the chart, I mean, look at this, there's so much action in Virgo decan 1. You've got Mercury, the moon and the sun, obviously, because it's a new moon, and then Mars as well, and Venus too, and they are all really pretty much trining Uranus. So big revolutionary actions going here, but in an earthy way. And now on the other side of that triangle is Ceres, so that does bring up the Persephone theme as well, my favourite goddess Persephone. Now also the thing with this decan, it carries a very Persephone theme as well. So we're going to look into Virgo decan 1 a lot more deeper. Now with this, with decans, they have two rulerships. They have one that is from the Chaldean system, which is a bit different from the Vedic system. So it's ruled by the sun, so that's sovereignty again, and Mercury, which is very Virgo-y anyway. This decan has the Great Bear, the Dragon, and the sextans, which is an instrument used for astronomy. And it's quite an odd section of the zodiac because it carries stars that are mostly quite far from the ecliptic, except for just the alpha star in sextans. So I think that this is more of a kind of far out section of Virgo with the astronomers' instruments there, and so much so that some of them do actually flip over to their opposite in Pisces. So that will mean, I think, just for generally during this period, while the new moon is emphasizing this, that there is that kind of Neptunian possibility for it to flip over. And yeah, I've already talked about this being the area. It's kind of got a wounded healer sort of energy as well, you know, that these people develop the sensitivity after having a broken heart. But I don't want to just repeat myself. So since we have a bit of a Ceres connection as well, let's talk about the Ceres Persephone connection, because that archetype is definitely going to be triggered for this new moon, especially with Uranus, because that can trigger rebellion anyway. So this is the kind of super nurse as well, and it can be very self-sacrificial. There's the martyr energy as well. So this is what happens when if we're the sort of person who can't say no, can't set boundaries, which is kind of a Neptunian thing anyway, they let themselves become very drained, and then when their energy is totally depleted, they become very resentful and bitter. And this is when the typical critical Virgo can go over the top with unleashing harsh and hurtful words. So that could come out during this new moon as well, blaming others for the consequences of their own failure to set clear boundaries. And, you know, this is also a time, if you are connected with Virgo, 6 degrees of Virgo, if you've got anything close to that you can be easy prey for energy vampires because of your knee-jerk reaction just to be of service. So in some versions of the myth, though, with Persephone and Ceres, Persephone willingly goes down into the underworld because she empathizes so strongly with the cries of the dying. And this is why Virgo decan 1 is such a good energy at medicating those who are grieving. At this time, you know, we could become the opiate for our patients, friends, lovers, children, parents, and any neighborhood strays. And when they come out of the underworld, earn their crown and become their own sovereign, then they can work as counselors, helping others make the transition from addiction to enlightenment. So I did actually talk about the Sphinx as well in the astral report. The Sphinx is a good symbol for the sun-ruled decan, which carries over some of the traits of Leo. The half-lion, half-lady depicts the successful blending of those two energies. And the fixed star, Regulus, we already talked about that as well. But yeah, I think those themes will come up during this time, that those with anything important at 6 degrees of Virgo really will have the opportunity to test out how strong they are at claiming their sovereignty. They will be put in a position where they really have to say no and stand up for themselves. And standing up to the bully as well. Now, Thuban is the fixed star that is going to be triggered by this moon, and it can be quite anally retentive, because this is the dragon that guarded the golden apples in the garden of Hesperides. It guards and it protects, it's a guardian, and also it's quite a passive kind of guardianship as well, so it can be a little bit too passive aggressive, and again, yeah, standing up to the bully, it has to do that, instead of kind of just... See, I always get in trouble with Virgos. Whenever I talk about Virgos, I get the most thumbs down from them, because they annoy me when they don't stand. They just kind of quietly obey, and it's only when they take on too much that they can get really, really vengeful, and it just goes over the top. So, and again, this sort of anal retentiveness, can be with Thuban, because it's guarding treasure. It can be holding on to its treasures and talents, afraid to release them out into the world for fear of rejection or exhaustion as well. So this is a bit of a loner moon, can be hoarding. And Bernadette Brady says of Thuban that it can be about sacred matters which have degenerated into the human concepts of jealously guarded physical treasure. Or it can be more fruitful and yielding in its influence, because, yeah, it's apples as well, the forbidden fruit too. So all those themes, it's funny, because I have been looking into the creation myth and Adam and Eve, so I might talk about that later in my rant, and the tree of knowledge and the forbidden fruit and what all that really does mean. So since both the moon and the sun are involved in the new moon, we'll look at both of them. Now, the sun on Thuban is actually, this is Bernadette Brady again, says one who finds, collects or gives a treasure, to instinctively collect information or things. So yeah, this is a new moon of collecting things really as well, and the need to avoid meanness with your knowledge or resources. So yes, share, click, share. It's very World Wide Web, isn't it? And she says in the news, a national treasure receives attention. Now, I mean, I've heard some people described as a national treasure who were very, very dubious in the end, like Jimmy Savile. So we'll see any national treasures who come up and it's like, oh my God, they weren't such treasures after all. Because yes, look at the people who have this placement. They're so opposite, really. I mean, where would you see Caligula and Mother Teresa in the same list? Well, you will. Here you find it. Also Tim Burton and Sean Connery, Richard Gere. Yeah, interesting. Oh, God. And paedophile John Phillips as well. Incest and paedophilia there. Nice. Okay. All right, sorry. Let's look at the moon. Now, moon in Virgo 1, although it's quite modest in power, it's actually quite good at manifestation, as long as it's waxing, which it is. It's growing. So this is also the place that I kind of called shabby chic as well, because if it can't be perfect, it will be perfectly shabby, really. So it does, like I said, it can flip over to kind of Piscean energy here. And this is a pretty magical moon as well, because of the manifestation potential here. So those who are connected to 6 degree Virgo with this moon will feel that they've got the power of healing hands, And yeah, go for a massage by somebody with Moon Virgo 1. That would be great. Or anything on Virgo 1, because you might feel that their fingers can really work miracles. They really will be channeling some great healing energy during this time. And yeah, it's a perfect time to go for a massage as well, actually. So there's also... It's quite a cathartic moon as well, in terms of if you wanted to, because I found there was quite a lot of musicians with this, very grungy type of musicians with this placement as well. So it's great for bringing pollution to the surface so that it can be healed as well. And yeah, and when you have a massage, that's what it does. It loosens all the... lymph glands or the, I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works. But anyway, I know that you can sometimes feel a bit hungover the next day after a massage. So just so you know, people with Moon Virgo 1 are really interesting. William Lilly and Kiero and Vivian Robson, who's the fixed star astrologer that I use a lot and quote a lot from. Also Eric von Daniken, Terence McKenna, Ron L. Hubbard, and the 14th Dalai Lama as well. So, yeah, I like that list of mystical people. So if you want to know more about Virgo Decan 1, I'll leave a link in the description. So I'll just read out the first face of Virgo for you, because it's the Picatrix and I just love the descriptions. It's a young girl covered with a woolen cloth, and in her hand is a pomegranate. This is a face of sowing and ploughing, the germination of plants, of gathering grapes, and of good living. So this is Persephone, the pomegranate. Although she looks a bit worse for wear in this picture, I'm afraid. By the way, these little phrases that come from the Picatrix, they're all because if you want to make a talisman for the first face of Virgo, these are supposed to be the images that you're supposed to use for that. Now, there is also a tarot card associated with this decan as well. So it's the Ace of Pentacles. And yeah, it really does. I love the way they match, because it's about commitment and craftsmanship, which is very much a Virgo skill. For this decan, this is one where you have to pay a lot of attention to detail and completing tasks. Education and scholarships are important at this time, and it's about giving something back. So Teach Me Tarot say one of the meanings for this card is you may be working hard to build a secure future for you and your partner or family. Make sure you remember to go home regularly and make some time for fun and social activities. The type of person you are leaves you exposed and vulnerable to becoming a workaholic. Like what I said earlier, doing too much for others and then getting resentful. And she says, if you let this happen, then it may very well destroy your lovely relationship. You must work hard at striking the right balance. You can have both, So this is the thing. At this new moon, it will become obvious that you have to sort out the work-home balance, really. But let's go back to the constellation Draco, because it is quite far away from the ecliptic. It's one of those ones. I have a theory that the further away they are, the more harder the energy is to control and use for good intentions, really. It's kind of like the outer planets as well. The further away they are, it's just kind of alien, and it's also not very grounded. So with the dragon, Draco, they are often depicted as having a snake body on 4 feet. So it's kind of like a serpent, flying serpent, really. Now, the Bible in Revelations, my favourite part of it, says, "And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." His angels. Anyway, that's Draco and dragons for you. So it's kind of interesting, though, that why would a dragon be guarding these golden apples of knowledge? It is like you seem to have to get to the forbidden fruit or wisdom or godlike wisdom, godlike knowledge. You have to fight this dragon. But the thing with dragons as well is that they have forked tongue. So because it points in different directions, there's, the forked tongue is supposed to be a liar as well. So that you have to get through the deceit as well. So in order to gain this knowledge. So yeah, we have this connection with the dragon and the forbidden fruit in the golden apples in this garden. And then we've also got the pomegranates that Persephone holds in the first face of Virgo as well. So yeah, I'm definitely going to talk about Adam and Eve after this, because it's definitely bringing up these themes. So the aspects, now the moon conjunct Mars, that's very much about protecting the family, those that they love, passionate about it, very physical aspect as well, very competitive. And now, again, I just thought, when you start talking about certain subject matters, you do feel that you are walking on eggshells. So the moon conjunct Mars is quite inflammatory as well. Now this aspect, if you have it in your chart, will often feel like it grew up in a war zone because of the amount of emotional domestic explosions. Sometimes the mother is easily inflamed so that everyone else in the house is treading on eggshells. Having been brought up on red alert, the subject finds it hard to mellow out when they set up home with a much calmer partner, and that results in the grown-up adult feeling like they are almost walking through a minefield, even in the most benign of pastures. So that's the thing. It's like, this is post-traumatic stress, isn't it, really? And it's really hard to calm down and not feeling like there's going to be an explosion any minute. And also, I think if you're one of the workaholic Virgos as well, keeping working, keeping busy distracts you from relaxing as well. Because maybe, again, if things are too quiet, then you wonder when the next bomb is going to go off. It is like working in the emergency department, actually, very much so. So this is like the emergency nurse, the triage nurse as well. So that's the kind of energy we're talking about at the moment. And I think it needs to be channeled into doing something really exciting, because with the trine to Uranus, when you read about Mars trine Uranus, I mean, it's totally about doing something like jumping out of an aeroplane. It's passionate, dazzling, moves fast, frenzied. It's a great time actually to, if you are, like I said, if you need to sort of keep busy, to go to the gym, do some martial arts and thrash out this energy, because it's quite a racy energy. It's also, of course, going to be highly sexual as well. So you might have to try and, you might have to take a cold tub if you're one of the more excitable signs. But this is a great new moon for new ideas, original things, unusual happenings as well. And doing something ambitious and unusual, very well starred. But yeah, it is very thrill-seeking. It's very daring too. So what have we got so far? We've got this kind of Virgo-y Persephone energy. We've got the forbidden fruit. And of course, with Mars, this Mars element and the Mars trine Uranus, it is going to make people more likely to want to take a bite of this forbidden fruit as well. So it does suggest falling down a rabbit hole, which is also a very Persephone kind of theme as well. And it's just wanting to break out of her little Victorian pampered life and going into the underworld. But this also could be with a love affair as well. I mean, with moon conjunct Mars and the fact that we've just had, I think it's today actually, the day, as I'm recording this, August the 24th, is Venus conjunct Mars. So it's making me quite, what's the word? Impassioned, I guess. And I think doing talking about Adam and Eve later on, I think will fit very nicely with this, because relationships really have become a war zone by design as well. So with all that in mind, the crystal that I chose for this new moon is the Amandine Garnet. Now, I actually picked this up when I went to Avebury, to the Stone Circle in Avebury, and there's a crystal shop right next to it, of course. But this one really called out to me, and mainly because I thought, I wonder if this has got 12 sides, and obviously the 12 signs. I tried to count it, but it's too weird, and you can never seem to count them. It's 10 or 12, but anyway. So this is the crystal. It kind of looks like the top of Saturn as well. You know how there's a hexagon on it. So it's quite spiky in its energy as well. It's quite protective. So then I looked up what it meant, and I just thought perfect for this new moon. So it's basically a security, safety and abundance crystal. It helps with bereavement. It's supportive in taking time for oneself and bringing deeper love, and aids in integrating truth with self, opens the higher mind and initiates charity and compassion as well. I guess Virgo has enough of that anyway, but for some of the people who don't have that, the Garnet will help with those. It can help arouse the energies of the Kundalini, so that goes with the Mars conjunct Venus as well. But the good thing is that this crystal does actually keep you grounded as well, because it's got very sort of steady, slow kind of vibration to it. It's a stone of physical love and the relationship between loving partners, supporting each other's needs and desires. It's also a strengthener, increases powers of resistance, and most importantly, a stone of psychic protection. So obviously I must have thought I needed that when I picked it up. So because this crystal has such a dense energy, it will make it more difficult for negative entities to attach themselves to you. It can also help in assessing past life memories from ancient civilizations and in clearing karmic patterns. It protects against emotional vampires. Virgo needs this very much. Manipulators and evil spirits and liars as well. And anyone engaged in spiritual rescue should wear this stone. So there you go. Okay, bit of a change of scene. I decided to just do my little talky bit or rant or whatever from a different room because it's so damn hot today in my studio. It's just baking. So now, as promised, I wanted to talk about Adam and Eve because I want to talk about the Lilith book I was writing and have decided not, well, to kind of change it, to scrap it as it was in its form. And the reason was, and if you've watched the Robert Phoenix interview, I did talk a little bit about it, was that I realised that I was kind of misinformed about Lilith, the Bible story, because the Bible story is what modern feminists kind of base the whole archetype of Lilith on, and that story is the one where she was Adam's first wife, and she actually wasn't. This was a made-up thing. I thought it was, I knew that it wasn't in the Bible. I know that in the Bible there's two versions of the creation story, that God makes Adam and Eve out of the earth. So they're both basically equal. And then there's another creation story in the Bible where he creates Adam first and then he creates Eve afterwards from his rib. So she's basically part of him. So it's kind of one removed from God. And so what the scholars kind of said, or what certain people said, was that it can't be the same woman because there's two different stories here, so the first one must be Lilith. I mean, how do you make that deduction? But anyway, so Lilith was created equal with him, but Adam didn't like that, and according to the hearsay is that she demanded to be on top, and Adam didn't like that, so they had an argument, and she just told him to basically that, and left paradise, and then he goes on. But I won't go on about the whole Lilith story, but the gist of it is really that
that all she wanted was equality with Adam, and he wouldn't even have that. So yeah, this is the whole thing that made me think, oh well, you know, the Bible is completely sexist and Adam's a misogynist and I don't want any parts of that religion because, you know. But then you find out that it's not actually true. And that, yes, there are two creation stories. The reason is because the Bible is an assemblage of many different writers. And so obviously writer number one has them as equal. Writer number two doesn't. And so it's kind of pick and mix with the Bible. But it doesn't mean to say that you should, that's why you can't take the Bible by its word and it has to be interpreted because it's esoteric. It's not literal. So anyway, so I just thought, well, God, you know, I'm basing, and so many people must be basing their whole interpretation of the Lilith story by this kind of hearsay. Where this story comes from, by the way, I thought it was in one of the books that was left out of the Bible. So, you know, again, you think, oh, well, you know, it was left out of the Bible because they didn't want us to know about Adam's first sassy wife, Lilith. But no, it's not in the what are they called? Apocrypha text. It's not. It's not in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's not in the Nag Hammadi either, because I have read all those. They're really very patchy. That's why they were left out. So it's in this medieval satire book, which is actually, it's been described in, it was written in the medieval times. So 1,000 years after the Bible, this is where the story of Lilith as first wife of Adam comes in. This is what the feminists have based their idea or archetype of Lilith on, and then various other writers have done that too. And it's basically a satire. It's a piss take of the Bible. And some say it's an anti-Semitic book, so because it's sort of taken the piss out of a lot of some proverbs that are in the New Old Testament as well. So I don't know whether it's that, but then I read that it was written by a Jewish guy, so I don't know. But anyway, whatever it is, it's a questionable source for Lilith. So going back to the thing, I have to rethink how I see Lilith now. I have been doing that already. The research hasn't gone to waste because I was doing a lot of research into the dark goddess anyway, the dark goddess archetype. And for me, the dark goddess archetype really is Ceres. As you know, I'm so into Ceres. I'm so into the triple, the dark triad with Pluto and Eris as well, and the Persephone archetype. And that to me is a much more interesting, much more rich archetype to look into. Lilith is the baby killer. It is a demon. It's a succubus. She is kind of the forbidden fruit as well. And I'll go into Lilith a lot more, my revision of Lilith in another, in a dedicated podcast, and I'll have to rewrite it anyway. But I just wanted to let you know as well. And also I have taken off my Lilith posts because I'm not happy with them, because they're misrepresentations of the whole thing. It glorifies quite a demonic entity, and actually, if you want to read which is more up to date, is a post, I'll leave it in the description box below, which is Are We Moon Food? Because the apogee really does have an influence, but it's not in the way that a normal planet would. So you can't really say, oh, I've got Lilith trine my sun, or the only way it works is if it's conjunct the moon, and using true Lilith as well, because if it is, then it means that the dark moon was really close. It's the closest the moon gets to the earth, so it's describing a physical position, and I would surmise that it also means that the moon has more effect on human beings, like the full moon does. So, and the moon is questionable anyway because it's so emotional, and it is used for spells for a reason, because we're very highly suggestible at the time when the apogee, the Dark Moon Lilith, is closest to the Earth. So I have to look into that. I can look, and I think it is to do with possession. She is mentioned in the Bible as the screech owl, and basically is a demonic entity. So it's like the jinn. You know, the Muslims know of the jinn. It's possession, and we know that is possible. So we have to read her as that, and so yeah, I will get back to my Lilith book, but I am going to make it more. It's not going to be dedicated to Lilith. It's going to be the Dark Goddess, and it's more in line. The Dark Goddess is more in line with Persephone, but also Mary Magdalene, because I think what's happened with Lilith, or the Dark Goddess, she's been turned into this kind of sexy sex goddess, which is kind of what Lilith is, or has been. And the Dark Goddess should really be more about being the priestess and the witch, but not using it to hypnotize and seduce people. You know, that's a misuse of the energy. It should be used as a healer and as someone who has heightened intuition, who can kind of see into the future a bit, but not someone who communes with spirits. Really, I think that's dangerous. I think opening portals is dangerous. So that's why I wanted to talk about Adam and Eve, because I think it goes very well with this Virgo new moon. And thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. All the best. Bye bye.